Welcome, everyone, to the newly retitled show that was formerly known as Rudy's Roundtable. We still got a work in progress title, but today I'm honored. Actually, yeah, I need to re-come up with a new name.
Square Table.
Right, Square Table. But today I'm honored and so excited to have my good friend, a legend in magic, the one and only Ritchy Flo.
What is up? Rudy is magic.
Welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show.
Very few of us Hispanics in this game.
Hey, Latinos Unidos, man. We gotta represent, man. We gotta represent. I wanted to actually kind of go back. We started a little bit, right, when we first met in Denton, right, several years ago now. And I wanted to take a moment to give me some insight, man. How did you first even get into magic? Well, you know, I know we get this question a lot, right? But if you could explain it in a different way, I want you to tell me how it felt when you first, picked up magic or started learning magic.
Sure.
What did it feel like?
So I, as a kid, I always liked games and like fun stuff like that. And, I remember my dad showing me ball and vase. For whatever reason, he had a little yellow one, I remember, and a little white ball and a little, who knows where he got it. And I didn't even get the trick. I just thought it was a cool little thing. I don't even know. Dad's little egg thing, whatever it is. And I just remember loving that. And that was like my first little experience. And then a couple years later, my grandpa comes over and does same thing, royal magic. A little quarter goes through a little bitty plastic thing and whatever it was. And I was dumbfounded, like legitimately dumbfounded. And I thought that it was the coolest thing. And then tragedy struck.
Oh no!
My parents took me to a magic show in San Antonio at Fiesta, Texas, and I was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and it was like Hans Clock-ish. So big things disappearing, lions, all that kind of stuff, but explosions to make everything do when something disappears, right? And I'm still shell shocked to this day.
Yeah,
where I'm like, I was just like, my mom was covering me. Like, my mom thinks it's hilarious I became a magician because of how terrified of magic I was.
Like PTSD.
So she's like holding me. Yeah. So very traumatic. And I'm sure if I went to see a psychologist, they'd be like, oh, we know why you're a magician now. Remember when you were 8 and traumatized?
Yeah.
So it was awful.
Wow.
Beautiful Corvette that he made appear. But the sound to get to the Corvette was so loud for me. And freaked me out. We left. I was like, I hate magic. And then we were at Sam's Club. And we're walking by, and they had this huge magic kit from Marshall Brodeen, 172 magic tricks, whatever. I still have a couple of the pieces, the little doll that went with it and stuff. And I wanted it more than anything in the world.
How old were you around this time? Do you remember?
It was 1997. I know that because I know what house I lived at. So 1996, 1997, I was probably in like second or third grade. Definitely third grade because I was in Miss Elrod's class, and for our show and tell, I bring in my head. I've always had this vision of me doing this amazing magic show as a third grader and all this stuff. And I lie and I tell people that, oh, I found this tape of me, but I actually know that I wasn't good because I didn't do any magic tricks. I do know I had a paper bag full of all the I don't know if we can say this, but a Svengali deck mixed up inside this bag that was all the cards mixed up. And I was just like, this is a bag of cards. And didn't do any magic. Nobody saw anything. I think I let some kids have some of the props because I was scared and let them have all their stuff. And just like completely thought that was what I was supposed to do. And at that time, magic was cool. Then I get a little bit older and I start making music, and one of my friends that I was making music with is at my house, and I'm watching like some DVD. I think it was Brad Christian's Ninja 1.
Classic.
Classic.
Dude. Yeah.
Watching it on, like, magicians that don't like illusionists would be so mad to know that a majority of my card tricks come from what I learned from Brad Christian. Love him. Can't wait till Ninja 3. Shout out Brad Christian. Shout out Illusionist.
He taught a generation, man, for real.
For sure.
For real.
And people might say like, oh, his teaching is this or teaching that. Man, I got it. I learned the tricks. I am amazing because of those beginner DVDs or whatever. He had some great stuff on those. So fast forward, I start making my music stuff, and my friend who I'm making music with comes in. He sees me watching this thing, and he just says, bro, are you gonna be a magician or are you gonna be a rapper? And it was the first time I thought, oh, dang, there's a choice I have to make. And I went what I thought at the time was the cooler route by making music. And so I started doing music, making music, producing and rapping. And that ended up getting us to Europe. This is actually the fun story that I like to tell people, like, yeah, how I got into magic originally, this is it. But this is how I fell in love with magic.
Okay.
I'm like 17 at this bar in the Czech Republic, and I'm drinking because it's legal there. I'm drinking, and I look over, and there's one of the bar decks of cards, all old and this big and all this stuff, right? And I do some of those tricks from Illusionist and absolutely kill. And you've been doing magic since you were a kid?
Yeah.
So there's a certain point where you cross where people are like, that's cute, Rudy, great trick, to like, wait, what?
It's noticeable. It's noticeable.
Very noticeable, especially when it's adults that are telling you that.
Yeah.
So I was getting these reactions, and I'm like, I'm going home and I'm learning magic again. I'm going to get back into magic. Instead of doing this, I'm going to do magic, or both. And then, things kind of changed it in culture and in entertainment where you don't have to just be in a box.
I'm curious there if part of the reason that maybe like the reactions you were getting from magic kind of stood out so much were you getting kind of reactions like that from rap or from music, right? Because it's like, oh, like that was a dope flow, or that was it's not as pronounced as a magic reaction sometimes, maybe.
Sure. So you can like freestyle, like we were talking about earlier. You can freestyle, and if I say a really cool thing, people are like, oh, right. Cool. But what if we could guarantee that a cool thing's gonna happen? You know what I mean? So like in magic, it's like, because I would do rap shows afterwards. People would come to my house for our party, and people would go, let's do a cypher, let's freestyle. And I'd be like, oh man, I just did a whole show of rapping. Let me show y'all something else. And then it'd be like, what?
Yeah, it's next level. Next level, yeah.
And then, kind of like my rapper friends, especially like Pudge, my friend Pudge would be like, hey, you got your cards on you? And I'd be like, what? And we're like with these rappers, and he's like, hey, show them.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was kind of nervous. I'd be like, oh man, I don't have no cards on me. Yeah. Then one day I told him, I go, hey, I always have my cards on me. I'm lying if I say I don't. In fact, here's a deck of cards, and I want you to have this on you just in case I don't. You know what I mean? And so so from that point, I've tried to always do it. There was one time where I'm in Denton. This girl comes up to me at a bar, and she's like, hey, aren't you that magician? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, can you come show me and my friends a trick?
Dude, isn't that something special? Like
it is.
People come up to you,
and
like,
I killed her vibe by saying, I'm not doing magic tonight. I'm sorry. I'm just hanging out with my friends. She goes and sits and is like so sad. And I see her and her friends all like looking really sad. And I go over there and I go, I'm kidding. I got y'all. And I told my friend when I went back, I go, never again will I say no. You know what I mean? Yeah. Our whole lives, we wanted to do magic for people. And we're finally at a point where people recognize us, they'll ask us to do it. We better show up.
Especially when people want to see it, man. Like that's such a rare thing. And to get recognized or to be known as like the magic guy in your group of friends is one thing, but then when people outside that group of friends start to recognize, oh, that's the magic guy, like that's
I was the guy that said, no, you can't have my signature. I'm Sylvester Stallone. You know what I mean?
It feels like it's kind of like the celebrities that's like, no, I'm not going to take photos or whatever. Come on, man, we're just having fun here.
And especially like it's magic. Like this is not going to be a thing that I'm like, it's like, oh yeah, cool, magic. This is fun. Like, so why would I deny people that? So I made a rule. I will not deny people. If you ask me, I'm doing magic.
That's a good rule.
I don't care
if
it's a card trick or whatever. My thing now I got from Eric Leclerc. He did a thing where I think it was Chris Ramsey interviewing him, and he's like, you know what I like about you? When someone tells you to do magic, you don't say, okay. You say, okay, what do you have? And I love that. Just like, what do you have? And I'll do magic with it. Because that's what, that's what seems like would be real or magic.
It feels more spontaneous. It feels more authentic. Yeah.
Better than like, let me pull out these scarves.
You probably heard there's a quote by, I think it's John Lennon, right? From the Beatles. He said, if you gave me a tuba or trombone, I should still be able to make art or music with it because I'm a musician. And so it's the idea that the instrument is secondary to who you are as a person, right? So whether it's keys, a phone, bills, whatever it is, if you're a magician, this was another quote I read, if you're a true magician, people should still feel like they met a magician, even if you didn't do magic.
Oof.
Right? That's a crazy one. So imagine,
I like that.
Right? Like imagine, like a famous painter, right? They don't have to paint in front of you for you to feel that, oh, that person's a painter. Like, like it's an interesting idea that yes, the magic of course is great to show, but we can also convey the magic and just who we are.
For sure. Yeah. Especially by making your life magical seeming. You know what I mean? Even like, kind of like we were kind of talking earlier off camera. No, but when it comes to like routining and stuff, like, I had a gig the other day. There's a trick that I'm learning from Larry Becker. That's like a mentalism-y thing, has some cards and stuff. And the whole point of it is like, there's 2 cities, there's 2 decks of cards. So they mix up both decks. And when you flip over the top, the cities match. And then you have a second envelope that has a similar cities. Great, simple premise, whatever.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
I do the trick. I've been practicing, and I kind of have like a couple ideas of how I could perform it. So I perform it the first way at this gig, and I always try to do it straight with not much patter, kind of doing this, kind of seeing where just the trick alone will kind of get people. So I do it. This guy's looking, and he's like, interesting. That's cool. Goes away. And I'm like, okay, now how do I bring meaning to this trick?
Yeah.
Now, the trick at the end has 2 cities, and at this time, I just did the thing. Well, the next time I did it to a guy, like 10 minutes later, I go, man, being a magician's really cool. You know why? He's like, why? I go, because you get to travel. We've only had like 6 weeks in this year, and I've already been to this place and this place and this place and this place. But you know what my favorite place is? Chicago. You know why? Because they have the Chicago Magic Lounge. And I've never even been there before, but I'm about to go. And I looked online, and do you know what the Chicago Lounge entrance looks like?
Yeah.
Well, it's not just an entrance or a door. This is like a laundry, the whole thing. And I explained it to him what it would look like, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, that sounds crazy. I go, yes, my favorite place to go is probably Chicago. Anyways, let's do this trick. And so at the end, the ones that we turn over are Chicago. And then the prediction is Chicago. And all this stuff where it's like, originally, the trick would have been cool. It was okay. The guy was like, oh, that's really cool. That's neat. But then whenever I said Chicago, blah, 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 you know what he said after they just turned? He was like, my favorite city in the world, Chicago. I literally just got back from Chicago 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And just because you added the context, maybe Chicago's not his favorite city, but whatever I did made him feel that feeling like, ooh, I like Chicago too. And if I go, I'm going to go to that place that he just told me. You know what I mean? And I realized that like that little bit of meaning just, and it's not, I haven't actually been to Chicago. It's part of a pattern for a trip.
Yeah.
But just people feeling like a person is talking to them and a magician is talking to them. It just heightens the reactions and the things. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where I was kind of falling short in the beginning of me doing magic. Just being solely like maybe influenced by like David Blaine or somebody like that. That's like, we're going to do this trick. Not too much patter around it, just kind of and I love that kind of magic. Especially as a magician, we love seeing that kind of magic. But sometimes when you're not like working on a television program and you're doing a gig, that doesn't work so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got me thinking, because I've discovered that there's no real wrong way to do magic, of course. There's just different trade-offs that you give, right? So with the David Blaine style, right, which I was hugely influenced by as well, it's minimal patter. It's let's not focus on the magician, let's focus on the magic. With I think is a really interesting philosophy, right? The trick, let the trick speak for itself. I'm in the way of the trick, let me get out the way, right? Which is a cool thing, because then people appreciate, all the visual tricks work great for this. The trick is like amazing, but you do need the trick to be crazy, right? That's like the trade-off, right? But then, and I think one of your greatest strengths has always been, it's not just being talkative, it's being, you have just a very, what would we call it? Picturesque language, right? Like you can paint a picture with your language, right? Which is what you're doing when you're talking about, when I'm going to Chicago and you'll see this and this, right? You're bringing people into a little world that you create, right? And that's one of the biggest benefits of having like a thought out pattern, right? But also just a story, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to what's the story behind this magic trick? Why are we even doing a trick in the first place, right? And if you can say something where, it's been 6 weeks, I've been flying all over, this is the next one, and you're excited about it, you convey that so well, then, people just, reciprocate that. They're like, oh, I guess I'm excited too about this, right? And the more you draw people into it, I've noticed, you know this, the very simple, just double lift, changing someone's hand, right? But because it's happening in someone's hand and not in yours, like if I do the change in my hand, cool, impressive, all right. Happens in your hand, whoa, okay. Now you whole different thing. Now, okay, is it a sign card in your hand? Okay, cool. Is it a sign card with maybe that person's mother's name, right? And now it's like, whoa, now there's an emotional connection there, right? And then of course with mentalism, when you can, peer into people's thoughts or say, tell me about a childhood memory that one of your favorite days that you had.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to Six Flags or something. Now you're really connecting. Same techniques, same ideas, but now it's more personal. And then that's one of your greatest strengths that you do.
I appreciate that for sure. And I think it's really easy to not, because we don't have to think about that, right? There's certain of us that do or whatever for whatever reason, but you don't have to. Like you said, there's no wrong way to do magic. Are you doing a trick? Are you doing this? But I think like I have this trick that I was kind of working on, and I was telling with this guy, and it's literally just a peek and a reveal. That's it. You peek whatever they write, and it's a reveal. However, he's it's kind of like a method that I kind of came up with for the peek. But I told him the storyline of like what the trick was, because I like wrote it out, and the guy's like, "What made you think of this?" And the story is, okay, I'm about to have you close your eyes for a second, and I want you to imagine that you're going to walk 3 feet to the side of you and open up a time machine. And you're going to go inside the time machine, and you're going to go to the future. How many years? 10, 20, 30, what do you want? And they say 20 years. I go, okay. Go in there, push the dial to 20 years, and then we're going to wait. Okay. You're going to go in. Now, what I want you to do is leave the time machine and look around. Do you see anybody? I want you to find a person. Do you see anybody? And they're like, yeah, there's a person. I go, okay. Walk up to that person and just have a little conversation in your mind with them. See if you can pick up on the language they say, maybe a slang word that you've never heard, maybe something futuristic, whatever. And they're like, okay. I want you to hop back into the time machine. Cool. Come back to 2024, right? And this is obviously done a little bit longer or whatever. Yeah. All right, come back to 2024. Okay, now when I snap my fingers and you're gonna open your eyes, you're back to 2024. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And they open their eyes, and I'm like, where the hell have you been? You know what I mean?
Yeah, just like, what?
And then I say, okay, so you just took a little journey. That's awesome. Did you hear any word? Would you talk to people? Yeah. Okay. Did you hear any new slang word that maybe none of us would hear? No, because we never heard it before. Yeah, you did? Okay. And then, write it down.
Go from there.
And now it's like, and he's like, what made you think of a slang? And I'm like, who knows what made me think of that?
Yeah.
But that just, it made it so that instead of it being a word that you're writing or whatever, this person went on this whole little journey in their mind, because I would love for someone to tell me a story while my eyes are closed.
Yeah.
I'd love that, but it never happens to me, so I'm gonna do it to someone else, and hopefully, eventually, it'll circle around where someone does it.
Even less as adults, and that's two things. So one there, I just listened to a podcast with Oz Perlman, right? The Mentalist, amazing dude.
Love him.
And he was talking about just in whatever field you do, whether it's sports, music, whatever it is, right? If you can do something either better or do something different, then that's how you can really distinguish yourself in it. And the storytelling aspect of that, right? Where, you might get someone like, hey, think of someone that I could not know, right? That's like a pretty standard thing in mentalism. But if you can bring someone to, hey, or either in the future or in the past, right? Go back to that day when you graduated high school, or go back to the day where you started in that school play or something, right? That meant a lot to you, or that your parents came to see your game, or whatever it is. Like if you can bring people to those moments that mean a lot to them, then the magic trick mirrors that, right? Or whatever effect you're doing, it reaches that level to them of significance, which is how you really make something crazy.
Cool. I like what you just said, because I'm so ADD. Yeah. A sports game. Go back to when you played sports.
Yeah.
What position were you? Okay, I want you to really quick. We're gonna stop the game at 5 minutes until. Look at the scoreboard real quick. Just look at what that score is. All right, come back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you
got like,
there's just so much information that you could pull. I always do this one. I've always done it. Like, think of someone who you miss or love, and that I originally kind of would do that because it seems like it would have like an emotional kind of pull a little bit already.
Yeah.
But like now I'm like, okay, what other questions can you ask? There's so many other things that you could ask. You know what I mean? Like, what's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite singer? Think of a word out of a random book in your mind. Like, so many different pieces of information to pull that you could make mean something that's just as loaded as think of someone you love, think of someone who you miss. You know what I mean?
A movie scene that made you cry or that you felt something, right? Then people,
Love
okay,
that.
what about that actor? Who's that character's name, right? Why does it mean something to you, right?
And we have the methods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I was doing some writing with a magician recently, a couple months ago, and the whole exercise was don't worry about method. Just do not worry about method. What are some premises? What are some things? What are some good, cool things? And I don't care how impossible it is or whatever. You know, we have the tools. If I was like, hey, we need to make this cup disappear, our minds put together, we would come up with a way, and no one would be able to figure it out or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like we have the methods. What's some crazy experience you can give people? Like you said, the Aussie wind thing. I'm sure that was incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah. So the whole, I mean, it's not really, because he's talked about this publicly, but the whole idea is, can you do an entire show with a deck of cards? And so it's like an hour, 15, I think, show.
With one deck of cards?
With one deck of cards. But the unique thing about it is that as everyone's taking a seat, it's just concentric circles, right? It's called inner circle. I think he stopped doing the show now.
Yeah.
He's on to a different one. But he speaks about how he was inspired with it. It was him, his mentor, Juan Tamariz, right? And a group of other magicians. And I believe Juan just started doing magic at a small table. It was like a dinner table or something with friends. And he did like an hour show with just a deck of cards with them. And he's like, but how can you add another layer of, different, make it a little more unique? And he uses an entire blank deck of cards. And so everyone signs a card. So everyone in the audience, you sign your initial and then you write your name. And then
incredible.
All the cards go together. So, which is kind of what I have in my room with like all the signed cards. Now, every time, there's always this underlying tension in the show, because whenever a card is drawn, it's not just a card, it's a person. And he calls upon the person, Sarah, you're this card. Stand up, please. Okay, blah, blah, blah. How did you get here? And he'll go into a routine from there. So I thought it was just such an ingenious show because, for one, it keeps everyone attentive because they're waiting for their name to be called, because it can be called. And then it makes it so much more personal because now...
That is brilliant. I had no idea.
It's so dope.
I had no idea.
It's so dope.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's super cool. Wow.
But with what you're talking about here, though, of just, approaching tricks, approaching sometimes with tricks with the end in mind, right? The fact that, a card through a window is actually a pretty common trick, like that a lot of magicians know how to do that, but that it's still such an impossible thing is wild. And I want to pick your brain here a little bit, because you actually released your own trick on Penguin Magic, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how that, obviously not revealing thing, but like kind of just what you can say about it.
So it was a trick which recently somebody released, a very, very cool magician released their version of it that they've been doing allegedly maybe longer than me. But it was a trick that I kind of like happened upon. It was actually one of the very first tricks I created that I was like, this could be a trick. And it was very flukish how I even made the gimmick and everything, just kind of like, I made a gimmick and then I'm like, what could I do with this? And then I kind of had one trick, I put it online, and then I go out like a little bit later and some people are like, that's real magic. Whatever that trick is, that's what real magic was like. I'm like, what? That?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm watching, I'm just shouting out all the magic companies. Real Magic Magazine. It's only $5 a month or something. It's like, I don't know if you subscribe, but it's worth it.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
They got all these magic magazines. It's a magazine, but it's like a video magazine. So it'll have like all these magicians like throughout it, like teaching you tricks, showing you the newest tricks, doing reviews, all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
So I'm watching one about Paul Harris. I think it might even be the first episode. And huge Paul Harris fan, have all the Art of Astonishment books, have all his videos, have all the True Astonishment DVDs, like all of it. Love Paul Harris. And he, at the very end of this interview, they're like, so how can we get in touch with you or whatever? He's like, paulharris.com or, whatever. So I'm like, I wonder if that, or maybe it might have even just said paulharris.com. So I'm like, let me see if that's a thing. So I look at it, and then right next to it said submit a trick. And I'm like,
okay,
let me see what I got. So I go and I just submit. I go shoot a video real quick, very low quality, whatever. I shoot a video of me doing this trick with a balloon, and I send it to him. And 20 minutes later, he emails me back, and it's like, hey, this is a great trick. Is this yours? Do you mind sending me the method? Blah, blah, blah. I'd like to check it out.
No way.
So I sent it to him, and it says P at the end. Yeah. Paul. So I'm like, this is crazy. So then he goes, yeah, I really like this. Let me see if I can drum up some interest.
Yeah.
I'm like, no way. I should have been doing this forever. And the fact that I don't do it more is crazy. Mm-hmm. So then he said, hey, look, I don't have any projects I'm putting out right now, but I really think this is cool. If you send this to Penguin, they might hook you up with like a partner program thing where you can sell it through them. So what I thought they were going to do is like sometimes if you submit a trick, they may not buy it or anything, but they'll give you an account where you can sell it as your own entity or whatever, right? So you're selling, and I thought that's what they're going to do to me, but instead I send it to what's his name, Sean Dunn, brilliant magician, great guy, Penguin. He messages me, same kind of thing, like, hey, this is cool, like, what do you want to do with it? And I'm like, I mean, what do y'all want to do with it? I don't know. It's just a trick I have in my show. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And I actually call him. It's one of those things where it kind of made me actually develop better not premises, but like stories and stuff. He's like, so we have a phone call and he's like, so how do you do it? Like, what's your stuff? I go on stage. I give everyone in the audience a balloon. I blow mine up and then they blow theirs up. And I sound the count of 3. I'm going to let mine go. And it just stays there. They let theirs go and it goes everywhere. Yeah. Which I love the way that looks. But he said, oh, cool. So just like the magician is kind of cooler than everyone.
Oh, okay.
Or something along that line.
Yeah,
right?
but
so it made me think of, maybe that's not the best way to do it. So the trick is called aerostatic. Mm-hmm. And Dan Harlan actually took my trick that I would say was like a 3, turned it into like a 7 to 9 in my opinion, not only by making a better method than I had, similar basic method, but he improved it so much better. And then he had this routine that was like, mine was blowing up a balloon, y'all's are going everywhere. His was like, I have an ability to not only freeze time and space, but air. I can trap air particles, like, all this stuff.
It just
I'm
goes
like,
off.
whoa.
Yeah.
And he has this whole trick and does all this stuff, and I was just like, 10 out of 10, bro.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. And so, it took maybe a little while for it to finally get produced because I think, that's how the industry is. But he did an amazing job.
Wow.
It's been cool getting some residuals or whatever every once in a while. But I could care less about that. It's just like, but what is kind of interesting is a couple magicians, once it got released, reached out to me and said, you stole that trick from me. Or, hey, that's mine. Or whatever. Right? Parallel thinking, whatever.
Yeah.
One magician actually became one of my friends. We actually I would say the name, but I'm not sure if I would say it correctly. It's like Magic Makura or something like this. I'm not sure where he's from, but very good magician who's very like visual stuff, right? And they had a set of lecture notes that predated my first video of me doing it. So all he wanted was, let me just get some credit on the thing. So if you go to the aerostatic, we credit him. And there was someone else who also said it, but they couldn't show that they did it before I did it. But recently, another magician released literally the same trick where someone from Penguin reached out and said, hey, is this your same method? And I was like, it looks like it would be because there's not that many ways you could do this specific trick. But they didn't care. I don't care. Like, whatever. In fact, if you go look at the reviews on mine, there's a couple people who say, like, I got this so that I could have the less expensive method. But I love the trick. And what's crazy is there's people who have, and I'll even just look it up so I can be accurate.
Yeah.
There's people who have other tricks that are way better than mine that have 20 really good, solid reviews. And then I click on this and I have no 1-star, no 2-star, 2% 3-star, 15% 4-star, and 83% 5-star. And it's
that's a great ratio.
46 interviews but people are like in here writing these reviews and all these things and like long reviews. I don't know if you can see super, super long reviews.
That's a great ratio.
About my little trick that I'm like, what? Y'all do this? Like I've never, in fact, this is awful though. Mm-hmm. This is awful. I know how it feels to have your trick revealed on TikTok.
Oh no.
And it is not fun by like tons of accounts.
Yeah, just
tons where I'm like, I looked it up one day, like balloon magic tricks or whatever. And I'm just like, what? What? You know what I mean? And then being on the pirated magic sites, like, so the day it came out, the magic sites had it for $2.
What?
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
The day it came out, I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, they're efficient.
Really works,
they're efficient.
You know what I mean? And I, you know, as somebody who at one time in my career thought pirating magic was cool, it is not cool, guys. You're taking from creators like me. Okay. No, it really isn't cool. Like literally, like I used to be like, you know, I used to have like a couple things that were like from downloads or whatever. And then I realized like, oh, these downloads are $20, $30.
Yeah, like it's not,
you know what I mean? I might as well invest so that these people, you know, now if you look at my magic collections from books to tricks to DVDs, like it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm sure.
It accumulates across
you
the years.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like COVID, I coped with COVID by like, oh, let me see my weekly books and my weekly stuff. What am I going to buy this week? But like, you know, I think piracy's wrong. I just do because like, what are y'all doing being sneaky? You know what I mean?
Especially like, so I've yet to publish my own trick, right? So like I can't say I've gone through the experience you've gone through, right? Which first of all is amazing to like connect with Paul Harris and then with like first, like that's an incredible achievement. And like the fact that even though it takes some time, like you have a published effect to your name with great reviews and like that's already like amazing. Right? Like most magicians never get there, right?
I never thought I would.
Yeah,
for sure. It's crazy. It seems so like what are the steps to that,
dude? It's crazy. And it sounds like it kind of just happened along the way. So I love all that. But yeah, and I can't speak for it, but I can just imagine how infuriating it must be, right? Like all the time it took to develop this product. It's almost like a baby, right? And then it just gets like revealed to the world, right? Without
Let me be honest. You know? I wouldn't care if they just because whatever. I wouldn't care so much if they just ruined the original method I sent. But like Dan Harlan did come up. Like Dan Harlan is brilliant, brilliant magician, and the thing that he made it into is what's getting revealed, and that's
okay, that's even more right.
Mine, yeah, whatever. It's a cool trick, but the way he elevated it so much to think that like this trick that started here and became here is just because you can just open your account and show people really quick how the gimmick works. Like,
I can see that. I think for both it sucks, right? And it is a thing though where, and we were talking a little bit about before this too, right? There will always be that subset of people that are like, oh, that just, let's just call them like magic averse. Some people really do hate magic just straight up. Yeah. Some people just don't care for it. But there are also those people that just kind of want to figure it out, right? For whatever reason, right? They just want to know how it works. And there's, I think, an appreciation side of that where you can, I was compared to, like math and like reading back in like high school and elementary, right? Where in math, you're supposed to show your work, right? Like this, all that. But then in writing, when it's like writing an essay or something, you're supposed to like hide all the work, right? To just show the finished draft or the finished essay. And magic is this weird thing where the audience almost never sees the work that we do. They just see the final thing. Like it's our job to make it look easy almost, right? Maybe add a little bit of difficulty here and there, but they have no idea whether one trick took 10,000 hours or if it's like a gimmick that makes it work, right? 100%. Obviously the presentation and stuff aside, but an audience member just has no idea of that, right? And so it's sometimes hard for the audience to even understand or appreciate all the work that goes into any effect,
for
right?
Sure.
They just see a balloon, but it's like, no, like you don't see all the work behind it.
You don't see the psychology and the little nuances to make it, even something as simple as like, I think we can reveal false shuffling the deck. Right? You do a false shuffly thing and like, sure, it's like a technique or whatever, but it should look like you're just shuffling cards. You know what I mean? It should look like that. And that's literally what it's perceived as. No one's like, I don't know if, you know what I mean? They don't. They go, oh, guys shuffling cards. Okay,
Yeah,
I guess we'll do the trick in a second. And so that should be how everything kind of is. You know what I mean? And getting it to that point, I remember one of my biggest faults as a magician is when you read in a book to practice in front of a mirror. I never practice in front of a mirror. I do now whenever I'm practicing. But for years and years and years, I never practiced in front of a mirror. I'm like, I know the trick.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the trick.
How did you practice before? Like, how did you?
Just the steps and the techniques and the sleights. Like, okay, this is what the sleight looks like. And it wasn't even until I kind of saw myself as being like filmed that I was like, oh, that's what. Because from this perspective, a lot of things don't look like magic. You know what I mean? From our eyes, we're like, this ain't magic.
Yeah.
I know what's about that.
We're seeing like, yeah.
And so like a lot of times it was like that. But then once I kind of like changed the way that I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I'm practicing in a mirror because if I'm at this angle, I can get away with something that I didn't know I could get away with. Yeah. Or if I'm at this angle, I can get away with something I didn't know I was able to get away with. And, you know, I there was a video of something where it was a non-card trick where I'm like doing a simple little pin trick behind your ear to some kids. And I noticed that even though I was doing it to kids that had no idea what I was about to do, my body language was off. You know, I'm like doing
how
weird
you're standing,
hides and doing weird things. Not natural at all. Very like stuck, stiff. And I was like, I don't like that. What was the problem with that? And I realized like I would do these big body movements thinking that would cover this small little thing. But I didn't understand what that technique essentially meant. So I would be doing it wrong. And then I'd be like, oh, wait, I'm in front of a mirror.
Yeah, what does that look like?
I can just stand here and you can literally come all the way over here and I'm good, I'm clear.
Yeah.
And so like I'd say like that's one of the things.
Yeah.
A second thing is when you hear that as a magician we'd be like, oh, I don't need a mirror. Or two, you hear like, don't buy every trick. You don't need to buy every trick. Yeah. Get your tricks that you're good at. You don't want to be decent at 1,000. You know, you want to be good at 5 or great at 5. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe for the other magicians, but then I have this huge collection, and it's so overwhelming that what do you practice? What do you perform? What do you do? You know what I mean?
How do you like sift through and then all the time? Yeah, like, it's like why give yourself that problem?
For sure, it's like it's like choice anxiety automatically for no reason, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to do it. You know, even this fanny pack literally only has magic in it, but like. I'd rather just pull the deck of cards out of my pocket and work through that than be like,
let me just kind of.
What am I gonna do?
Let me choose, right?
50 tricks. Like, no, I don't need 50 tricks. Yeah. Even this, I'm like, I just have it because I don't want someone to steal it.
I mean, it's like the Bruce Lee quote, right? Like a very famous quote where it's like, I fear the man not who has practiced 1,000 kicks once, but who's practiced one kick 1,000 times, something like that. And you. So before we move on, there was a really good quote. Really good thing I wanted to take note of. Dan Harlan, right? The guy's name, where the different roles as magicians, or even just in the magic community, let's talk, or even just like in business, right? Where you have maybe a creator, right? But then you have someone who is, let's maybe call them like an amplifier or something, right? So I think it's very tough for one person to be both the signal and the amplifier, right? Sure. Like it's very rare to get both. Most people are really good at one or the other. And so like in this case, right, like you created the signal, you created the balloon effect, and then Dan Harlan like amplified it and like refined it, right? There's a whole story with McDonald's, right? Where the original person or group that created McDonald's had like a normal burger stand, but then it took, I can't remember the guy's name, Roy something might have been the salesman.
Oh yeah.
Who took McDonald's to like a whole nother level. But that, like, he probably could not have done it alone. Like he could not have created McDonald's first. He needed it to be created to then, you know. So it's just the value of a team is what I see, right? And
100%. I mean, just that extra little eye.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, because what? I mean, I won't even say this, but I will say there's something that you can do with the Dan Harlan version that you can't do with mine. That not only makes it more believable but more magical. You know what I mean?
Dope,
so like, as much as mine could do a cool trick, to think of it from just that outside lens, and be like, ooh, that's cool. But what if you could do something extra with it too? Because you do already have this prop like this, and it already could do this. That's what I'm like, ooh, I want to start thinking like that. You know what I mean?
The value of different perspectives. And okay, so I really wanted to ask you about, because you recently had a show, Magic at the Chinese Buffet, right?
Yes.
Tell me, like, bro, how did that get started? How did it go? Like, I just saw the pictures. It looked wild. I was like, what is happening?
So we were at a Chinese buffet, me and my homie Radu, my manager, and we're sitting there and we're eating. And, you know, what's really cool is any place that we're at, we'll be at a CC's. And Radu starts looking around. And he's like, you could do a magic show here? And I'll be like, yeah, maybe. Or probably not. Or, yeah, that'd be cool. So we're at this Chinese buffet. And he's looking around. And he's like, and I know it's coming. He's like, can you do a magic show here? And then he's like, they got that party room back there. And I'm like, let's go see. Let's go ask. Let's just go see what they think. So we're like, can we go in this party room and just see what it is? And she's like, yeah, come on in. So we go look around, and it's big space for wedding reception type thing. I don't know why you would have a wedding reception there, but so we there's a younger guy, maybe like high school, a little older, who works there. He's walking around. I'm like, hey, how would y'all feel if we had like a magic show here? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like a magic show. And he's like, we've never had anything like that. I don't even know. So we're like, all right, we're gonna come back in a couple weeks and talk to y'all about it. So we leave. We kind of have this plan. I call one of my homies who I like to say he's one of my biggest doubters. I won't say his name because I don't want him to know. And I just said, hey, man, thinking about having a magic show at the Chinese buffet. And he's like, when? That sounds awesome. And I'm like,
really? Okay.
We got a great guy. He likes it.
Okay.
And I told him and stuff. And so then we go back up to the place. And this is a very interesting story because most people would choose to probably do this a little different, but here's what happened. We walk up to this guy. The boy that was walking around, I think he's the son of the guy who owns or runs the place, who I guess speaks very little English.
Okay.
So we walk up and we're like, hey, can we want to negotiate, we want to do a magic show. And the guy's like, right off the bat, like, I don't know about that. And so he's talking in whatever language to the kid, and the kid's like, you know, blah, 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 blah. He's blah, 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 blah. The kid's like, well, he doesn't know if you're going to sell it out or whatever. And I'm like, well, here's some pictures of my last events. These all sold out. Like, we sold literally 200 tickets over like 2 months at these two venues. Right. Okay, well, what happens if you don't? I go, then I'll pay for whatever. I'll pay for it all. I'll pay for the room by itself, and I'll pay for however many meals I should have had, whatever. In my head, I'm like, I hope I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So then he goes, you know, he's talking blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, what about this? Da, 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 da. Okay, what about this? No, and he's like asking me. And then out of nowhere, you know, the guy just like looks up at me and Radu, and he's like, agree. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
Cool. What? So our goal was to have 40. So the room was like, and this is just for any magicians out there trying to put together shows. And I kind of have to take a few steps back really quick. So originally I was trying to do magic shows and didn't. I always do magic shows and didn't. I'll rent them. I'll tell the venue, whatever. Yeah. Well, I approached a couple of venues post-COVID and said, hey, I want to do a magic show here. And they'd say, okay, who all is going to open? Like, do you have a DJ? And I go, no, I'm going to do like a 90-minute show, just my 90-minute show by myself. And they'd say, oh, we can't do that.
Why not?
Because they don't trust me to sell it, to do it. You know what I mean? Okay, right. To put one artist for whatever. So I'm like, no, trust me. Like, I haven't done magic shows out here in a while. It'll do well. And so they're like, oh, no. So I'm like, what do we do? So I listened to, I'm like name dropping and saying that. So I was listening to Jonah Babin's podcast, Magic. Oh my God. Do you know it?
Actually,
no. Gosh, it's so good.
We can like edit this part.
Yeah. I just gotta look it up. Jonah Babin's Magic podcast. Discourse and Magic, bro. You need to be on Discourse and Magic. I'm gonna put you on.
Sure,
I'm gonna put you on it. Like, I can't put you on the actual episodes,
right. But
listen to it. It's got everybody that you love.
Okay.
Jonah Babin's probably like 25, 26, maybe a little older, maybe a lot older. I don't know. Great interview when it comes to magic. great interviewer as a magician. Like he thinks of stuff in such a great way. Love the guy.
Yeah.
Never met him, but
so you get the nod for the venue first, okay? And so you're like, let's do some more magic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the Jonah Badminton. The only reason I even brought that up is magician Giancarlo Bernini.
Yes. Yeah.
So he was on there one time. Actually, first time I ever heard of that guy was on this podcast, and to follow him.
Dude, he's awesome. Yeah.
Met him a couple times. Really cool guy. He's talking about his tour that he did, and he's like, I was on Peerspace, and I just was looking up venues, and I would just rent my own venues or whatever. And I'm like, that's more of my approach anyways. I like that. I love that. So we reached out to a venue. They wanted a lot of money, but I was like, okay, if I sell 2 shows, I'll have a family show at the beginning. Magic Can Be Fun, and then I'll do my other show, Flow State, at night. So I did those at that venue, and they sold out, both of them, with VIPs and all this stuff. Oh,
nice.
So I'm like, cool. I not only made that money, but then we did this. So we kind of had a little bit of money to work with. So then we go to the Chinese buffet. They book that, and we're saying, okay, it's $40. If you can bring 40 people, the room is free. If not, it's $600.
Okay, and the tickets included buffet, right?
Yeah. So the tickets were like $30.
Okay.
I only made like $5 per ticket because the buffet was so expensive, and I only made like $5. But we were trying to have 40 people. We ended up selling like 85 tickets because I forgot to turn my ticket thing off on my website. I forgot to turn it off. Yeah. And my phone's charging, and I'm getting everything set up, and I go look, and it's like, you sold 34 more tickets. I'm like, we don't have room for that. We don't have room for that in here. So we like put more seats because we were making it like comedy club seating or whatever.
Right.
So then people showed up, and like groups, people who'd never even heard of me.
How did you get the word out? Was it like just Instagram, social? Like how?
We did Instagram. One thing that we didn't do in 2022 or 2023 is buy any ads for whatever reason. We were just like, let's try to see if we can do it without ads.
Right.
And then this year we started posting some ads about stuff, but word of mouth. I was out every night. I was doing magic all for people. I was, and the one thing that I heard from so many people, magicians too, is like, that's just such a crazy idea. It's a restaurant. It's just a Chinese buffet. It's just magic. But because it's like something that would be in like a Scooby-Doo episode or something.
I mean, it's immediately what I was thinking about. I don't know if you would ever do this, but it's such a crazy thing. Like, you could go on tour across America at different Chinese buffets and just like, it's the magic of China. Because like, you just never think of the two together.
For sure.
But there's already a built-in audience of people for Chinese buffets. So like, okay, get your meal, enjoy some entertainment.
100%. One thing I didn't do, any magic that had to do with Chinese buffets.
I was just about to ask.
Right? Everyone was like, we're going to do fortune cookie stuff. And honestly, 2 weeks before the first show, Dan Harlan, shout out Dan Harlan, dropped a trick where it's a fortune cookie.
Oh, like reveal or something. Yeah.
Reveal inside. He teaches you how to put reveals inside fortune cookies or something. And so it's a fortune cookie that you open it and it says something. And then I think it like turns into like a card or something like that. Oh, that's dope. Yeah. So that came out 2 weeks before, and I literally posted, I need this trick on their Instagram. And then the more I thought about it, the more, because what it was I was doing my show, Magic Can Be Fun, at the Magic Buffet. But it's my show called Magic Can Be Fun. That's the same show I've been doing for like a year and a half. So I was telling everyone, like, I don't want to do a magic Chinese
like themed
show. That's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a little too on the nose. Yeah.
It's too like, I'm not Chinese. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like, here's a ancient China. Like, no, I'm not that guy.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do my regular show. I'm gonna do the venue is just a venue.
Right.
And what's really cool is my homie Tony, Chef Tony, Celebrity Chef Tony. He owns a restaurant called Pacone in Denton, and me and him for years have said, what if we did a night where you cook and I do magic, and we just like go to people's houses or set up stuff like that. Now he owns his own restaurant. We do this like every 2 months where he does a big 5-course meal thing, and then I do magic, and it's like, we've been wanting to do this for so long. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I really like the idea of four-walling a show if you can't get everybody on your team. And because now I have leverage where I can say, hey, look, these are my sales.
Yeah, previous,
These are what I've done.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? One thing I would also say is like, do the show. Write down, you know, your name's Sebastian the Magician and you want to do a show that's at Long John Silver's. Yeah. Write down Sebastian's Long John Silver show and put when you want it to be and just call work towards it, because no one's going to do it for you. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? It sucks that we can be the best magician in the world and most likely no one's going to come and say like, hey, Rudy, I'm going to put $1 billion behind you. Let's do the show right now.
Let's go. Right.
Like they will. They will eventually, but we got to do it first and prove that, you know what I mean? I think like we're well on our way of proving that for people, that it's like, you know, it's really easy to not do. Even like, and maybe you notice this too, because you post a lot of stuff online. Like there will be people that I come in contact with that are my friends or whatever that'll be like, man, you're blowing up right now, bro. You're blowing up. And I'm like, I'm just posting on my Instagram every day.
Yeah.
It might seem like I'm blowing up to you, but you didn't repost my stuff. And I'm literally just posting on Instagram. Like it might seem like I'm blowing up because you're seeing me a lot, but I'm not blowing up.
Yeah, it's just the exposure effect, right? They see you so often.
And they think you're rich and all these things. Like, what?
It's like, it works definitely within like the friend group and like your group of friends, a social circle, but it's not until a video can escape from there, right? Like, can it gain that, like, you know, to launch out of that orbit to really go across other social media accounts, like, and be seen by other people. That's the biggest challenge. But no, I just think that's so dope, man. The freaking magic of the Chinese buffet, because you could even I don't know if you even want to do this, right? Like, but to do a tour across the Texas with like Chinese buffets or something, or like.
So we were gonna do one in Austin.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to say what the establishment was, but my little brother goes, "Would you do one here?" We walk and I see the building on the outside. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
We go inside. I'm looking around. There's food there that I just haven't seen at other Chinese buffets. I was excited. Then we saw a bunch of roaches. A lot of roaches. And I had to like,
you're just like, oh,
I don't know about this.
Yeah, because you would have to find ones that have party rooms, like event spaces too built in, right? Or at least a little section.
And for whatever reason, I'm a very open magician, meaning like if me and you off camera are talking about like a premise or a trick or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do this thing in my show, and you're like, ooh, that's really cool. My first response is I do it too. Let me know what results you get. You can do it. Da, da, da. Yeah. So when magicians would hit me up about like, oh my God, it's so brilliant, you're doing Chinese magic buffet, I'm like, hey, if you want to do it wherever you live,
just go for it.
Like, do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it hurts me to a fault where like when I was like first getting into gigs and magicians would ask me how I get gigs, I would tell everybody like every little way I get gigs, and then they start getting all the gigs, and I'm like, wait, what? Where are my gigs? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? That's cool. That's I'm not a gatekeeper, because we've been gatekeeped. You know what I mean? We ain't trying to gatekeep other people. So like, if anybody asks me, hey, how do I book shows? How do I get into magic? How do I do? Now, I will say this. If you ask me, how do I get into magic? What do you tell people?
It just depends what level they are. Like it depends like if they want it as a hobby, if they just want a trick or two, or if they want to get into it for real. Like what are they asking?
I send them an Amazon link to Sleight of Hand by Sachs. Which is like 1902, super hard to read. Like literally the tricks are like ring on the stick, and like all these tricks are like,
oh man.
And I'm like, dang, the cards back then were like not bicycles, so like those square cards and stuff. I was like, okay, if you like magic, learn that, and if you can learn any tricks from that book, I will really respect you.
I don't think I've really had a serious inquiry, even though I've done magic for tons of people at this point, right? Same likewise with you, man. Like, but I don't think I've had a serious person be like, oh, like I want to learn magic, teach me magic, or, you know, just how do I go about this?
That's pretty true.
Because honestly, most people just want to know, like when I do street magic on Rainier 6, some of them are like, I'll pay you $100 if you reveal a trick right now. Right. And I'm just like, well, maybe. But the reason sometimes, because I actually do reveal some of the tricks at times, but the reason, it's a very specific case, because for me, it's more about, can I tell the person, if the person just wants to know for like an ego thing, no.
Yeah.
But there are some people that are really interested in like, wait, how does this work? Like, why is it that I'm focusing all my attention and I can't figure this out? Like almost like an reverse engineering mindset. And when I show them, they have like this huge sense of appreciation. Plus they think it's even more magical because they're like, wait, you had to do this, and this.
Yeah.
And like they see all the work that goes behind it.
I can definitely see that too.
You see that, right? I was really lucky. I got a chance to do a magic class in Sherman like several years ago.
That's cool.
When we had like kids from like 7 to 70, and that was probably the best time to pass on magic. But I want to ask you too here as well. Like, what are your? Obviously, don't reveal anything you don't want to. Like, either future things you want to accomplish in magic, or just things you might be working on right now. Like, what does magic look like to you on the day to day right now?
So the biggest things, I mean, like I have like little bitty projects and things that I'm working on. I do have a little pack of like 10 to 12 tricks that I'm hopefully, because I dropped the balloon one, and then I sent Penguin another trick that they were very interested in. Actually, I posted it, my straw trick. You've probably seen.
Yes,
clear red.
Yeah.
So I sent that to them, or I didn't even send it to them. I posted it on my Instagram, and they reached out to me.
Oh wow!
And for whatever reason, it just wasn't the right time or place for it, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's how it works. In fact, a big thing that you should know is like when you send something to these companies and they don't want to do something with it right away, there's definitely ways you can improve the trick, and there's things you can still work on that is why they don't want it. You know, they might not want your trick because you can't hand it out. They might not want your trick because the gimmick is really hard to make at this point, or whatever it is, where it's like, okay, well, if I did a little bit more work on my end, maybe I could make it easier to sell for them, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, definitely want to get rid of some more tricks. Another shout out to Penguin is they have their monthly magazine.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever get those little Penguin magazines, but they like come if you spend like $50. I have like 4 tricks in there that the homie Nathan Cranzo will hit me up and be like, hey, do you have anything with double-sided cards, or do you have anything with this gimmick, or do you have anything? And I'll be like, yeah, here's a couple things I have. Like, let me know if you like these or whatever. But really, I want my ultimate goal, and this is what I always tell people. People think I'm crazy because this is not the way magicians are supposed to think. But I really like the Chris Angel model of having a TV show and a live show. And the live show is being promoted by your TV show.
And vice versa, yeah.
Now, I would do that using YouTube and stuff like that. But I think something that's, you know, and I have some projects, I really can't talk about them because they're... they're just so specific. They're so specific, but things along the lines
but just
of
that
like
general thing, we get the idea, right?
YouTube version of a magical experience in the heart of Darren Brown and Nathan Fielder from Nathan For You. Very similar.
Okay.
You know, you know, he's very influenced by Darren Brown.
Really? Okay.
Very interested by Darren Brown having these intricate shows and all of this.
Right.
And so, yeah, because Nathan's an old magician. In fact, in Darren Brown's new book, he talks about Nathan, one of his tricks. It's really cool.
I wonder if I'm thinking about the same...
For the Nathan For You, he's like a show on Comedy Central.
Yeah, it's like an awkward comedian, right?
Yeah,
okay, so saying
awkward,
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
We're gonna put these balloons on fat people so they're way less and all.
Yeah, they just
crazy stuff. But his show is just like, you know, my YouTube videos. A lot of them are like funny and magic, but there's ones that are like me just messing with people, but not like in a bad way, but just like a funny, you know, asking people, is that a dog? And they're like walking with their dog or whatever. But like
the harmless pranks almost.
Yeah,
in a
stuff
sense.
like this where I'm just like talking with people and making them think I'm a craziest person they ever witnessed.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea, there's this thing that we're working on without giving too much away. It's a guy who I met who I'm just trying to like enhance his life a little bit using magic unbeknownst to him and a couple of other little things along the way, where the ultimate goal is just to make this guy's life even better than it already is. Yeah. But there's a lot of little magic moments, and when you see his story and you see the thing, and even just the title of the video is, I can't believe that it's going to work, hopefully. But yeah, just projects like that. I want to do a bunch of YouTube. I love, you know, my favorite thing in the world is making YouTube videos. And that's goes with magic and music. Like I love making music. I love doing magic. I love that. But like showing it off via YouTube is like what I feel like is
because you use your music as the background music for your magic videos. I've noticed that too. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because it's exactly what I want. You know what I mean? It's the music that I'm like, ooh, I need this bed of music.
You're like, I need a track like this. Well, let me just make it.
Yeah,
so
for
dope.
sure.
That's
so I'm not
dope.
like, searching different songs. So I'm like, ooh, maybe this one works. Maybe this one doesn't work. It's like, ooh,
royalty,
this sounds like what I want. Yeah, it's royalty. As royalty free as you can get.
You can make it for real, like exactly tailored to you. Yeah.
And so just doing that and kind of like, showing as many people as possible magic essentially. You know what I mean? That's what our goal is, and that's what we're like moving and doing, and like it's a noble task because how many people have told you, I've never seen this in real life in my life. I've never seen real magic. What?
Yeah.
A magician? And it's like, I love you for that. I love you for never seeing magic and giving me a chance. Because I mean, I don't know if when you're busking people are saying no.
I mean, you'll get the way I see it when I'm busking. It's if 100 people walk by, maybe 5 will stop, and so it just depends if you take the 95 as a no. I don't take it as a no.
You don't get offended.
No. Busking changed my life because now like rejection means nothing to me.
Bro, I feel that 1,000%, bro. I feel that 1,000%. Like, tell me no 1,000 times.
Like it doesn't matter.
I love it. Now let me ask you this: have you always been outgoing?
Kind of, yeah. I definitely leaned more towards the outgoing from a young age, but I thought it was outgoing before, but after Rainy Street Magic, it just went to a whole nother level because, like, just to share my experience, right? So I came to Austin and originally came here knowing I wanted to do something in magic, but not really had it focused. I came across James Kenyon, awesome street magician, on South Congress, which is a famous street in Austin. I see him do magic. I think it's great. We connect. He's like, hey, you should do street magic. So I'm like, no way. So I go to Rainy Street and just legit set up a table, right? And just a little light and just go. I had no idea what it was really doing. And the first night I made maybe like $70, right? But I was like, okay, this could be something, right? And this was February 2022, I think, right? And I just started going out at least every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay.
For about like a full year, sometimes Sundays. And it became a thing where I would be there from like 7 p.m. to like 2 or 3 a.m. Like it was like putting just in the hours, right? And what's so humbling about the street is that everyone starts at zero. Like it doesn't matter how good yesterday was, today it's zero. And it could be the construction, it could be the weather that's affecting you. Just literally are just living by the wave of the universe, right? Like it's just change is just happening. And so it just teaches you, it taught me, right, first how to just come up with like little expectations, just show up and put in the hours. And then just how to promote this better. So every week, the money I would make, I would reinvest into the table, into the setup, into the lights. I bring these lights up now to the show. Yeah. And I have like this whole, like I used to just lug around a table, and now I have a whole little cart I move around just to make it easier. And just playing with like posters and everything as well. Because at the end of the day, it's how do you make people stop? If people can stop, then I can get them, right?
Yep.
But then...
Do people not leave tips ever, or everyone?
That can sometimes happen. I mean...
You're not worried that much.
Yeah, like
your promotion.
At the end of the day, it's like I put in a big sign, Rudy is magic. So the main thing is people see that, hey, this is who I am, magic, and then they can follow me on Instagram. So normally people don't tip, they follow. So it's a win-win. And I'm always recording, so I at least get like a good video from it. But then James, he was invaluable because James figured out how to like improve tips. So this is all credit to him. He's a genius at this. If you just do magic and at the end you're like, hey, do you guys like the show? Toss me a tip. People will tip like $1 or $2. Yeah. If you say, how much would you tip? Like if I could do this, then people are like, okay, man, I'll tip 5 or 10. Just by having people stop and think about how much they would tip, it like increases it. Then like on certain tricks, let's say 2-card money or like the Omni deck or tricks that have like a really high stakes and like right before the reveal, if you say, if I could change the cards into your hand, like, name a card, Jack of Spades. If I could change it to Jack of Spades, what's the biggest tip that would earn me? And they're like, I'll give you $20. And I'm like, okay, if I could make them all disappear in your hand, what would, that'd be worth double, right? And they're like, sure, and it's a 50-50. Some people will go with this, some people won't. You turn a $5 tip to a 20 to a 40. Then you say to the people around, if I could do that, would you chip in as well? Would you match their tip? Again, 50-50 was once a $5 tip, now can become a $60 tip out of a group. Cool. That's all credit to James, right? But
that's super cool.
It's just kind of having the balls to go for it. And and just being okay with being, at the end of the day, you still didn't get the money in the first place, but you could make a lot more.
Have you ever seen The Dancers? Like there's a bunch of them that do it, but I was in Vegas one day.
The Frozen ones or no, I was actually in one.
And all of a sudden they go, hey, we got one more big thing we're about to do, but this is what we do, blah blah blah. Yeah. So if everybody would bring your money out, we're gonna call the 20s first. We're gonna do the 10s, and then we'll get your 5s, and that's all you got, a 5.
Yeah.
And me and my friends were talking about how one of the buskers, man, his name's slipping my slipping my, and I hate that it's slipping because he's a great busker, but you can get his stuff on the Real Magic magazine. But he Cosmo is one of them. Cosmo's one of the things, and his pitch, if you watch, is like, he'll say, if you got $5, tip $5. If you have no dollars, tip $5. If you blah 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 blah. And it's a whole thing that some younger magicians, I feel like, would see it and be like, that ain't me. I don't like begging. But it's not begging when you think about the fact that you just gave people a show that they stopped and stayed to watch. You could just keep going. There's a Coke machine. You don't have to buy the Coke, but if the Coke comes out, you got to pay for it. You don't have to watch the show. And we're not trying to trick you or scam you, or that's not what this is. But I am doing a show, and I did put this in a public space. But if you don't have nothing and you just need entertainment, hey, I love you and I want you to like prosper and go and do your business. But if you can, hey, I am here and I do this for a living. I know that this kind of looks like a professional setup, but nobody hired me to be here. I'm literally here on my own dime, spreading love and spreading magic. You know what I mean? That kind of like, it makes sense where it's like, okay, we should tip this guy.
And also when you compare it to like the experience people are getting, because I can't tell you the amount of times that people will say, oh, this is the best thing I've experienced in Austin, or like, this is better than all the bars. Because I mean, like, especially here in Austin, like a drink will be like $20. And so people will tip sometimes $20 or something more, right? But you're giving them so much more attention and care and excitement in their night that they're like, oh, this was the highlight of my night, right?
They're going to be thinking about it while their eyes are closed and they're about to sleep.
Because they can buy a drink at any bar, but they can only have magic here. And so it is just kind of knowing that what you're giving is valuable, right? And that helped me a lot, kind of looking back.
Do you use Dot? Brought to you in part by Dot? No.
So, kind of. I use...
is there a better one?
I have... well, it also just depends on where I'm at. But I have a whole thing where I have like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle that you can very quickly scan. And then, of course, cash as well. But it just varies, right? Some nights cash is the one that people tip more. Sometimes it's Venmo. But just having them available is what makes it happen.
That's super cool, man. I love that.
But any final closing thoughts about here, right? Just how I'm in Austin, about magic, just anything else?
Man, just if you're watching this, keep doing magic, keep making magic. Know that there's people like me and Rudy that are rooting for you, and we want to know you. That's one thing about magic where I feel like I've always been so intimidated, and I've never gotten to go to Magic Live or any of those really, really cool ones. I really want to, though. I don't know if you're going to be at the North American FISM and all that. Not this.
Me and my friends are going to the one in Vegas, Magic Live in August. It's in August, I believe.
I'm going to go with y'all.
That'd be dope.
I'll get my ticket, man. For sure.
Come with, man.
There's another one in Dallas. You know about this?
No.
North American FISM is in Dallas.
Really?
I don't know if it's this year or next year.
Okay.
But it coincides with the TAOM, I believe, and the SMA, the SAM.
Yeah.
Like they're all three having the North Texas thing together, and they are telling me that all of the magicians I love will be there. This is the time.
That's huge.
But when I've been to a couple magic conventions and met a couple of my little heroes who were so cool and so nice. And I feel like for whatever reason, people think of magic as this gatekeep thing. I do think that they need more women representation, and people need to like support the hell out of that and, let it so everybody can do magic.
Because it is crazy. I think you're the only other Latino I know that does magic.
Me, you, and Eddie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And one more, Josh Ayala.
Yeah.
And I know very few.
Like it is a thing. I mean, I think just obviously in general, right? Like it's just tough to even do magic because the entry level is so hard. Like it's so hard. Like if you kind of what you were talking about earlier, right? Like if you want to do music, play an instrument, you can practice on your own and, you know, put enough time, you're pretty sure that you'll get better, right?
Yeah.
But magic, you have to have an audience to practice to improve. And also for the most part, magic, even though Dave Blaine and Chris Angel have been huge and Shin Lim and everyone else, magic is still for the average person seen as a very nerdy thing.
Very.
They're like, you're a magician? What? It's not until they see it that they're like, oh, this can actually be cool. And you have to basically go uphill for a long time before you can see the crest and actually be good enough. Like you mentioned, it's fun when it's like, okay, that's cute. Yeah, he's into magic, to finally doing a really good trick where it's like, whoa, he's on one right now, right?
That'll get you out there from 7 to 2 a.m. when you get, you know what I mean?
But that can be, you know, 6 months. That can be 6 years for some people before they finally experience that moment.
For sure.
You know?
1000%. I think just keep doing it, practice, get in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get in front of a mirror and practice, or a video or whatever, you know, and just do magic for people because people want to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. Do magic. Just do it.
I think that's the best words here tonight. Thank you so much, Ritchy, for being here, man.
Yo, thank
Always
you for
a pleasure,
having
man.
me.
Pleasure.
Great to see you, Rudy.
And yeah, let's do magic. Let's do some magic.